You bet.
Yes, I'm back. So, what did you think of the evidence that I presented at the end of the fall of Loki? Did you think it was solid?
You'll have to remind me.
Live cam footage of actual volcanoes and meteor strikes, meteors striking volcanoes in and around volcanoes, bolides almost crashing into them, and the reflection seen on the water, like how close it is to the volcano. How strong do you think that evidence was?
Well, I understand what Comyns Beaumont was saying as far as the volcanoes are actually where meteors have landed in the past, but they still continue to attract more meteors to those locations specifically.
Yes.
And that's what you're getting at, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know.
The videos pretty much prove it. I mean, unless somebody presents video footage showing meteors landing with the same frequency and consistency at non-volcanic locations, then the point pretty much proves itself. It's on video.
Why do you think that they aren't talking about this in the media? I managed to pick up on one video in the Daily Mail, and I think a picture as well. There was a picture of it was Mount Merapi in Indonesia, and it was being struck by a meteorite, and it was and it was paraded as if it was this freak thing. But when I started digging, I started finding more photographs. I found one of Mount Simeru being skimmed by a bolide. I found another one recently of La Palma being struck I think it was like 9 months before the great explosion, before the great eruption that happened at the end of 2021. And this big, huge, massive bolide hitting the tip of La Palma. It was when I found that, it was shortly after I finished Fall of Loki, and I was like, I really wanted to put that in there, but
yeah,
save it for something that's coming up soon, though. But why do you think that they are hiding this from the mainstream? Why don't you think that they're talking about this at all?
Because it connects to things that are actually real. Obviously, they want us to live in a completely fabricated fantasy, non-reality of where we're all just disconnected from anything that's really going on in the universe.
But yes, that's right. It's weird how you say that as well. They want to keep us. They want to emphasize that separateness and keep people's attention on that rather than showing the interconnectedness of all things. I think also it refers back to
they want the interconnectedness of all things to be routed through their circuit boards.
Have you ever heard of Bill Gates? Not Bill Gates. Have you heard of him?
No.
Well, he is this not a rationalist, but a rational scientist who goes completely against the grain when it comes to. He's like the Comyns Beaumont of physics, basically. He's a complete physics contrarian. He shuns all of quantum physics because of its use of nonsensical equations. He uses only explanations and hypotheses and theories, and he explains the mechanisms. So, and I just find it interesting that this physicist, Bill Gaedes, he talks about how everything is interconnected through every atom is connected to every other atom in the universe through invisible electromagnetic threads that are intertwined through everything.
And is that going on string theory?
It's kind of similar to that, but it's not. It's like string theory without equations and with only explanations and movies, pictures, diagrams to show you what the mechanisms are and how they're working. And I just find it interesting that this guy who talks about rational science all the time. He's basically proven what some of the major religions have been telling us for years about how everything is connected and we are all one. And this rational scientist, super rational scientist, is saying exactly that, and also explains his points very well. You know, he'll be showing up just like Jeffrey Wolynski turns up in The Fall of Loki. He'll be turning up in my next video to briefly outline his position on that. But getting back to, I also think that it's connected to, if Jeffrey Wolynski's theory is if anything to go off as well, how it fits so beautifully into Comyns Beaumont's. I think, you know, if we imagine Earth as a fully evolved star, you know, as a very old star that has lost its heat and magnetic field through millennia of shedding. And I think that's something else they don't want us to realize, because once we realize that this planet wasn't just a random bombardment formation, wasn't just a collection of rocks in space gathering, you know, and collecting, and then suddenly, you know, the gravitational pull pulls in more to make a sphere. Once we realize that, no, we already were a sphere, and that's why the moon's a sphere, and that's why all the rest of the planets are variations on the sphere. I think, you know, once we figure that out, we also figure out the origin of this fall archetype. You know, they want to keep that occult, right? Because if they keep that very basic archetypal origin story, if you like, occult, hidden, inaccessible, that gives them a lot of power over that symbol, over that archetype, and they can use it whenever they like. You know, preachers can preach from their altars about the fall of Lucifer, and how, you know, if we're not good, we're doomed to damnation. You know, things like that. Very basic, but also how look at the media. Look at the movies that have been out the past 2 years. The kind of freaky art projects. One of my videos, I showcase one of Black Lives Matter's little art projects that they did, where one of the founders dresses up like a fallen angel, and she looks completely hypnotized. By the way, like completely mind controlled. Like she's just like a walking doll. There's just no. You know, you could wave a hand in front of her face and she wouldn't know that where she was. But how they can use these archetypes against us, and one of them.
Well, as far as the archetypes,
powerful.
the archetypes you're talking about.
Yeah.
You said earlier that the British Edda and the kings and the gods had the same names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's right. Yeah.
That's been true in Egypt, where the pharaohs were named after the gods.
That's right.
I think that was the case in Ireland as well, and just about every ancient culture had an interchange between the names of the gods and the names of the kings, and there were rituals and coronation ceremonies which equivalated or identified, trying to figure out a way to phrase this, where the god and the king, or the goddess and the queen, were one and the same. Now, ritual cults that do ceremonies do the same thing, because their members, like you'll have a member of the cult will rise to their position and become whatever god or goddess, so to speak, that they're supposed to be. Like in the Wicker Man, that girl, the Wicker Man, you know, the cop goes to this island to find a missing girl, and there's all these pagans there. The main woman in that cult was identifying as Aphrodite. So she actually, in that close-knit group of that cult, she was Aphrodite.
Yes.
So that's been going on a long time. Now, before the catastrophe.
Just before you go on, also in the To the Devil a Daughter, the main head of the cult, he identifies with Astaroth, right? He he merges at one point with images of this like golden figure. They have this prop that they use to do their sadistic rituals with this sacrificial victim. I think it's a girl, a virgin girl, and they're going to do something really disgusting with the figure of an androgynous man and like a statue on a crucifix.
Okay.
And they're basically
remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I watched all those movies as part of getting ready to launch Van Helsing Library when I did. But it's true, and the Golden Dawn, the OTO, they do that. They identify with those archetypes. And
another thing that comes up in that movie as well is that speech that the bishop who talks about how man is partially programmed for catastrophe, and without God, that is the absolute capability of man. Catastrophe.
That's diabolical apologetics.
Of course.
Anytime you open up a book about where the person who wrote the book is advocating for black magic or Luciferianism or diabolicism, it's all the same arguments that they use over and over again.
It's like you got to go to God if otherwise you'll end up like this. You need God, right?
Well, like Anton LaVey, he actually was kind of humorous about it, where in his interview he's like, well, if it weren't for Satan, the church would have gone out of business a long time ago. But I think that's true, I think out of all the apologetics I've read, and all these pathetic attempts of justification, that was actually the best one because it made me laugh. But
what I found interesting is that the partially programmed for catastrophe, I think that is part of why they don't tell us about what's really going on with these volcanoes. They don't want to tell us that Jersey was once an ancient volcano, and the Isle of Jersey, by the way, and that's why they have a statue of Pan there at Devil's Point, I think it's called like that, or the Devil's Pond. And there's a big statue of Pan there, and there's also lots of rumors that there are weird rituals that go on around that site that just happens to be right next door to a massive volcanic crater. And I think they don't do that. They don't let us in on what's really happening with this planet because it keeps us in the dark. Again, they know we're partially programmed for catastrophe. I actually think that's true. I don't take Bishop's side when they say, "Oh, you gotta go to church."
As far as magic goes, dude.
Yeah.
As far as magic goes and what these groups are doing, they're all instructed as far as what to do. They don't even know what they're doing. There's only it's all instructed from the top down as far as what's going to be taught to the people who are actually going to do the rituals. You can make up your own shit and it'll be more effective than what they're doing, because hardly any of them understand the mechanics behind what they're actually doing. They're just doing what they're told because they don't think for themselves.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was posting these videos up in the various groups, I was getting replies from people saying, this is not a religious group. Do not post religious posts. And I'm like, how is this religious? And I understand why people might think that my videos are religious, but they're not at all. I think I was in the car with my father one time, and he was like, "Nathan, why are you studying all this? Are you really getting into this? Is this a religion to you?" I was like, "Dad, when it comes to religions and it comes to ancient history, I find that this is the holy work. You study it, And also the nature of God, you study that as well. You don't worship God in the way that that people think of worshiping God. You do the worship through studying it, through learning all about it, learning all about the planet, learning all about the universe that we inhabit. That's your way to get closer to God, to show your respect and reverence for the time and place that we live in. Is you get to grips of actually what the hell is going on this planet,
Anytime I see a book with the word religion on the front of it, I just automatically think, oh, that's going to be boring. I don't know, but
yeah.
I'm getting into a lot
Unless
of
it's Gerald Massey. And you're like,
Gerald
what?
oh yeah. I have one of his books. It's massive.
It's
I haven't even cracked it open yet because it's like freaking massive, dude.
Like Michael Tessarian, I think I kind of I'm a big fanboy of him. But when he was talking with True Scotsman the other week about Comyns Beaumont on one of his podcasts, which I couldn't miss, of course, the Mysterious Comet. I found it funny how Michael described it as described Comyns Beaumont's writing as not so good, or he wasn't such a good writer. But when I was reading Comyns Beaumont for the first time, as long as I had the Google search ready next to me, so I could search up some of these terms that he was throwing up from this crazy classical repertoire that he was pulling from, like he had such an amazing idea of what the classic literature was all about, and what all these ancient stories from the ancient Greeks and the Nordics and the Romans, and how they all tied together, and also brought things to light that I just would never have came across before. And it was like a movie playing inside my head when there was good flow, when there was a flow to it, and I was like making my way through it. Every now and then I'm looking at names of tribes. It's like, okay, I don't know what the Philistines are. I've got to check with it. I don't know what these guys. I don't know who these guys are. I've got to do it. And even then,
have you ever tried? Have you ever tried reading books twice in a row? That's what I'm doing now. Whenever I read a book, I read it. I got hung up a lot reading Comyns Beaumont because the rhythm of the writing didn't flow well for me the first time, but I just pushed through it. And so first few chapters I was doing like that. I was looking things up and rereading it over and over again. I decided, you know what? When I'm getting stuck like this on a book, I'll just keep going, even if I don't get it. I'll make it to the end, totally. And then the second time over, it goes.
Yeah, that definitely happened with me as well.
Yeah.
Especially, what? Okay, so this is going way back to the beginning, the beginning. So I wrote a book. Okay, after reading some of Gerald Massey, some of Comyns Beaumont. It was the Britain, the Key to World History, by the way. I started seeing weird stuff in around my city. Things started to pop out at me, that the architecture, specifically around the civil service areas, like the civic center, basically like the city hall for you guys. And okay, there's this edifice in the middle of my town in Newcastle, and it's built like the lighthouse of Alexandria, but at the top of it, completely white. And at the top of this tower of this lighthouse of Alexandria replica is a lighthouse. It emanates luminescent light from the tower, from the tip of the tower. And on top of the tower is 12 gigantic heads, each head the size of people, 12 in a circle on top of this tower, seahorse heads.
Okay.
And below this, I'll go into what this means in a second. Is the council chamber, and I'm not joking when I say this. When I've read the Riddle of Prehistoric Britain, some things went off in my head. I was like, that the council chamber, it's on stilts. It's surrounded by a little lake. The decorum of it is in strange geometric shapes, and it's on columnar stilts, these iron stilts that when you walk through these stilts, these columns that this council chamber is propped on top of, they harmonize, and they only emanate one harmonic though, and it makes your voice sound like like monotonal. It goes and it harmonizes. And I looked it up. I think like the frequency is something that's found in the pyramid. Like you go into the pyramid, and it like the harmonic resonance is the sound. So anyway, so I started freaking out a little bit, and I was like, this is a replica of Fingal's cave. They've built a tiny miniature replica, and not only that, this is where the council they meet. This is where they meet up to have conferences and to talk about what's going on in the county.
I wanna mention something else about Fingal's cave.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have another book called Apollo, the Wolf God, and this book is
Apollo,
published
the Wolf
by
God.
Yeah. This book is published by the Journal of Indo-European Studies. As you know, Apollo basically owned and operated the Oracle of Delphi.
Right, yeah.
And what this book focuses on is not so much that, because that's what you hear about most of the time in regards to Apollo. They focus on the wolf aspect, and then they go into the wolf and where
I'm glad you brought this up,
where the etymology traces to, and how the concepts of ancient Europe viewed the wolf. The first thing that they start breaking down is its connection to wind, because the etymology always coincides with the same word for wind, and the sound that wind makes, and how and how they tracked it back to
wind, right? The howling wind,
and they tracked it back to certain caves in Italy that made this wind sound. Well, what does Comyns Beaumont talk about? Comyns Beaumont says that the Oracle of Delphi was off of the western coast of Scotland, and Fingal's cave. And what else does Comyns Beaumont say about the sound that you hear inside of Fingal's cave?
That there was like a chorus, right? There was like an uproarious chorus, and it was so ambient. And sometimes there'd be like a slow, like a low amount of sound, but then because of the harmonics of this cave, it would just rise, and it was amplify. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I'm quite proud of in the fall of Loki is nailing that zoomorphication of the comet and Veneer, because I didn't feel like I did that enough during Dark Side of the Dragon. I felt like it was good to outline those things in Dark Side of the Dragon. It was like, okay, people I think can get on board with the idea of the big serpent Jormundir as being a part of the comet, the tidal waves and but when I found that footage of those bulbs transforming into meteors, I was like, this is sublime. I don't know how. It's like just the right time. Yeah, can you remember? Yeah, can you remember in the first part of the fall of Loki when I said Veneer, the wolf was merely a metaphor?
I want to mention the fact that my coat of arms is
Yes.
the Lamont coat of arms.
Yes.
Yeah, the western coast of Scotland is where we were located. The two men holding clubs, that actually signifies the wolf. There are
Okay.
two men holding clubs. There's symbolical connections, which is elaborated on that book I was talking about.
Right. It connects to Orion.
Connects to,
right?
it connects to, and Orion is connected to Lepus, the dog star, or the dog constellation for Sirius.
Sirius, right?
The three stars of the belt of Orion point to Sirius. It lines up with Sirius.
This is
and
something
it's like you basically have Orion. Yeah, you basically have Orion and his dog. Coat of arms.
Yes.
You have two men with the clubs.
Oh yeah, I can remember. Yeah, I can remember seeing this with your conversation with the unslaved lads. You know, I found it fascinating. I really did.
It has a hand on top. Yeah, and the coat of arms has a hand on the top.
Yes, right. The hand of Nuada, right? The silver hand. Is that right? Or am I getting that wrong?
Michael Cesarian tends to attribute it to the Atenist hand.
Oh yeah, that's right. The red hand.
However,
Ulster, right? The red hand of Ulster.
Yes, which goes back to the pharaoh Aya. However, this coat of arms was crafted at a later date, and considering the contact with the Norse and the Irish, which my clan certainly had, I think that the hand was three different things. It was giving recognition to the Atenists. It was giving recognition to Nuada, and I think it was giving recognition to Tyr, who raised the wolf.
Of course, Tyr.
Now the third thing,
raised the wolf.
Third thing is the lion shield in the middle, and this lion in particular actually looks like a comet with its mane.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah. Actually, I really love the style of this lion. It's not like a lot of lions I've seen, and the mane flows back. It's really long, and it looks like this comet with this wavy tail. So you have the wolf connection on all three parts. I even think that the lion itself on this shield kind of looks like a werewolf if it weren't a lion. I know that's a weird thing to say, but
I mean, Ignatius Donnelly, he talks about the comets. I mean, this hand, it appears right above them, right? In your coat of arms.
Yeah, right in the middle on the very top. Yeah.
Right. So it's like the hand of God as well, just in a very basic kind of thing. And like the amount of, old women with beards, like a bearded lady face. Some tribes around the world saw them as, bears. There was wolves, there was lions, there was, witches on broomsticks. There was Ignatius Donnelly lists them all, and it's like that. There isn't a predatory animal that comets and meteorites haven't been associated to, right? It's the I don't know. It's like the pure male energy of the universe coming into contact with our planet, which Comyns Beaumont says is like the receiver, like the receptacle, the female element when it comes to these kind of meteoric interactions, right?
But what about the witches on broomsticks? Would that be?
I think witches have like an inherent kind of ambiguousness when it comes to their gender as well. Some of them are so haggish. It's like it strips them of their femininity away from them.
Well, there's two ways to look at witches. One is the fact that Christians would call any woman who still retained any pagan elements, they would call them a witch. However, every ancient culture had witches. Ancient China had witches. Ancient Russia had witches. Ancient Africa had witches. Ancient North America, ancient South America, all had witches. And that is more aligned with the haggish aspect that you're talking about, because they were known for doing dark sorcery.
Yeah.
So
That is true.
So
and also,
yeah.
And also, as Michael Tessarian has talked about in his podcasts quite a few times, he talks about how women, they understood, ancient women that is, they understood that their bodily functions as women were in line with the movements of the stars, namely the moon.
Yeah, and Michael Tessarian says that females invented the calendar because it was their bodies that were in tune with it. However, I don't know about that, because look at today. Go talk to any couple. It's the man that knows. Yeah. The man knows when the woman's going on her period before the woman does. He keeps track of that shit because he knows that that's the day that you don't want to step on the wrong
female psychology.
Hey, the lads are sitting around and talking and saying, you ever notice how every full moon these chicks start acting like this? I think we need to start tracking this. You gotta develop a calendar so you can keep track.
Right.
Know when your safe days are.
That's interesting. I think why women are so disconnected from the stars and the arcane, the divination arts, using the stars to, astrology and things like that. I think that has a lot to do with the catastrophe, the catastrophic mindset. I think more than ever, women are more in tune with that than ever. If you just look at what's been happening with the pandemic crisis, and how they've almost been they've been weaponized. And they follow the edicts. Not all, hashtag not all, it has to be said, but they, for the most part, they're on board until something really affects them in a personal way. They're happy to go along with this whole, masking up their faces because they don't have to put makeup on that day, or they don't have to show people their faces, or they don't have to have some dude oogling at them, or maybe subliminally they just think they're ugly, or and say, oh great, I don't have to show my face, I can hide from the world today. And I think that women
will be much happier if they actually connect with their roots, as far as their connection to divination and prophecy, and instead of all of these laboratories and observatories that can't predict when the next volcano is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Our women should be in charge of that shit. They should be keeping track of that.
That being said,
I've
mentioned two women, two extraordinary women who know their stuff, who've been on Unslaved as well. Both Fiona Edgar and Sarah DeHaven. They've both helped me along these past two years with their extraordinary readings and takes as well, especially Fiona Edgar with her takes on the Nordic religion and how she goes about her. It's made me think differently about Christianity, definitely, and it's made me I appreciate that masculine energy she says that people need to reconnect with. That's the Odin energy, the Thor energy. I like that. I wish more women were talking like her.
Yeah. She helped me along the path as well, quite a bit. Fiona Edgar.
Yeah. But right. But the last thing I wanted to come to was how the wider ramifications of this. We have meteoric activity, affecting affecting epidemics, causing toxicity in the air. We have volcanic activity affecting the climate change. You know, the guys from UK Column were talking about how that there's this great amount of geological changes going on with the planet right now. Brian Gersh was quoted as to say that it's almost as if the Earth's moaning and groaning and out of sorts, like it's ill, or it needs to, it's getting ready to explode, or it's letting off pressure. And you've already mentioned before that what frequency we are at, and also the devices we have around us, the environment that we've set up around us, how that's affecting the weather and also our
especially women.
Frequency that we're putting out.
Have you ever known a woman who you just knew that she was connected to the earth,
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it is our responsibility to, how should I say, our state of mind and our well-being is intimately connected to the earth and everything that's happening with these meteor and volcanoes and everything. So it is our responsibility, and people think that taking responsibility for the earth means running around and recycling and blah 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 blah. No, it's your human biosystem. It's your energy field. It's your state of mind. That's what is going to make a difference. If you're not taking responsibility for your own bioenergetic system, that's what's affecting this, not fucking carbon emissions or anything like that. Okay, because most of it's coming from meteors. Most of the gases in the atmosphere is coming from what's being attracted into our atmosphere from out there. And that's as a direct result of our state of beingness down here. So that's what as above, so below is all about. Astrologers kind of know that because they realize that the transits and everything affect us and reflect that which is above as below. But when you take into account Comyns Beaumont, Wilhelm Reich, and the meteorology, that's really getting into as above, so below. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. There's a quote I've got here from Comyns Beaumont. It says, Ptah, the Egyptian version of Apollo, Smintheus, and in turn the Hyperborean Apollo, represented the star Sirius, which was believed to send cometary bodies or earthquakes and volcanic eruptions to punish the sinful world. Smintheus was that mysterious magic phase of the god who sent these punishments. And the mouse symbol, the mouse symbol represented the subterranean aspect of his activity, that is, opening the earth with flashing violent and sudden fire and sowing great destruction, an earthquake. And when I read this quote, it reminds me of Dune, because in Dune, the tribe, the Fremen tribe, they wanted to pick a name, and of course he picks the name of a desert mouse, right? Muad'Dib.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I think there's ways to understand what, as you were saying, as above, so below. I think the writer of Dune understood that, and that's why he picked the name of Muad'Dib, because it's only a mouse that understands the very complex nature of things and gets to see, gets to be a fly on the wall. It gets to go in through all the nooks and crannies. It understands all of these. It's a symbol for representing all of these invisible interactions that are happening with our planet, to our solar system, to the universe at large. And underneath underneath the planet. And you know, you were talking about Comyns Beaumont saying that the core is cool, and is solid basalt, probably commular from the magnetic drilling that it's been undergoing. But also, I've taken a look at Jeffrey Wolynski's theory, in that the Earth is slowly losing its heat and magnetism from the time it was a star. But what have I learned recently about the sun is that its corona is way hotter than the inside of it. And I think that could also relate to how this planet it operates as well. Like, it's cool in the middle, or it's warm or hot, but it's solid still. And the outer layers are where the magnetism and the heat from when the planet was a star, that's where the volcanoes are. That's where it's escaping. And you know, we could, next time we could talk about like a pole shift, because that comes up in my research a lot as well. You know, a possible pole shift, and that's why we're getting all of this unpredictable volcanic behavior. And it would figure that if volcanoes are on the lines of the Earth's magnetic field, that when the pole is shifting, that we're going to find volcanoes popping up and erupting in unpredictable places.
Right. Yeah. Well, a couple of years ago, I remembered they were showing how the magnetic North Pole was tracking further south than it ever has before.
I find, you know, it's another area I really have to do more research on. Of course, Beaumont talks about it a lot.
Because it moves, you know, like
yeah,
they teach you in land navigation that depending where you at, you might have to set your compass 7 degrees away from magnetic north in order to actually get true north. That's because it doesn't line up with the axis, the magnetic north, but it's actually been moving, like trailing further south.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
The idea that
well that could be a problem.
As we speak.
Right. That could be a problem with the for the actual internal rock structure, because if the solar rays are cutting through, like we explained earlier with the forming those pillars, then it's is it constantly forming those pillars wherever the magnetic north is at, you know?
Yeah, is it like when it shifts, is it like cuts straight through? And is it like it's like geometric, like amorphous grid shape kind of, you know?
Yeah, is it like cutting constantly, or I wonder if say that planet that Fingal's Cave and the Pillars of Hercules used to be, if it retained its magnetic north in the same position without moving around and wobbling around, maybe it takes 100 years or 1,000 years for those rays to actually cut through the basalt. Maybe it's not just like overnight, you know.
And that was another thing that freaked me out, man. I was like, okay, so adding mass to the planet shifts the orbit of the planet as well. And, you know, when he put it into context, it's like, you add another continent to the planet. Of course, there's going to be an orbit change, right? You change the weight of the planet and the magnetism, you know, the magnetic material, you know, you throw the pole completely out of whack until it resets itself or it finds its equilibrium again. There's going to be so much upheaval from that. Just thinking about the way he just describes the gradual increase in ocean levels, even uses the example of the Tyne. There's 2 Roman altars of Oceanus and Poseidon found in my city, Newcastle upon Tyne, at the base of the river. So it's like at the bottom of the river. And he said at the time when they placed these altars here, that was where the river was. And now it's like 9 foot above, you know, so it's taken 2,000 years for it to rise 9 foot above the position of where those altars were. And if they were at the bottom of the river, that's how much water's been added since then. Again, I'm just constantly blown away by these revelations that he outlines in these books, and how even my city appeared. He used, a geological, an archaeological find in my city. And that was just like pretty much like your coat of arms was. It was like a big synchronicity moment for me, because I was even studying about all that kind of stuff when I was doing my book about Newcastle.
Who in particular do you think this information needs to get out to? I know everybody, but
of course, people who live next to volcanoes, right? Every time I see footage from these news reports of La Palma and Hunga Tonga and Semeru, I see these people who are just bemused. They're like, why? The authorities knew that this volcano was showing activity. Why didn't they sound the alarm now? Why didn't they get us quarantined? I've seen some very angry and upset people from these sites. So if there's anyone who
that's actually a
acquires
good idea. Maybe we should send this interview to different people who live next to volcanoes. Yeah,
of course. And my videos.
Yeah, and links to I have all of Comyns Beaumont's books on PDF too.
All of them? Do you?
I think so.
I don't have them all on PDF. We'll have to do it.
I can send them.
A swap and
actually,
change.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put a new blog post up.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll add. I'll attach the PDFs to my post.
That'd be very handy for me.
Yeah, then you can just click on them and download them. You'll have it all, because they are like really expensive to get in paperback form. I only have like 3, and they gave me one as a bonus for free because it took a long time for them to mail it to me, and they just gave me a courtesy one. So I've only paid for 2 books. Then I finally found them on PDF, so I'll put those up. And we could attach my blog post to this video too. Yeah, let's get this information out, because I think this is really good stuff, man. And I think this is really powerful, actually.
Yeah, I know. I don't think we quite know the depth of how powerful this could be. I think we've skimmed the surface of trying to outline it. But I've really enjoyed this discussion, Caleb. And
hell yeah.
I'm glad I managed to get it working.
Hell yeah, man.
After the troubles in the beginning. But yes, everybody, check out Van Helsing Library. Is that just your website? Give out your websites and let people know where they can find you, Caleb.
VanHelsingLibrary.com. All one word. No hyphens or anything. Van Helsing Library.
It's a magnificent reference site. If you need to go and do a bit of digging on the occult, it's a great place to start. It's a great place just to even find references in popular culture and looking up certain books. There's things there that will prick your interest and will no doubt be in line with whatever synchronicity you're going through as well. But Caleb, thanks again, man. I really, really appreciate you. This is actually my first proper ever live podcast. I think it went pretty well.
Awesome, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on.
No, I've had a great time, mate. You take care of yourself. I'm going to stop the recording now.
All right. Take care.
We'll be in touch. All right. Bye.